Issues, big guest. How long have we tried to get Congresswoman Stefanik on the show? She's with us now. Congresswoman Elise Stefanik here in Philadelphia. Congresswoman, thank you. Thanks for coming on today.
Great to join you today.
Well, first, before we get to the campaign, it's been a while, but thank you for what you did. That was as buttoned up and as thorough during the college presidents moment, anti-Semitism, etc. What was going through your head during that period of time? Were you thinking, yeah, once and for all, these people are being exposed?
I'll tell you, I was so disappointed, and I asked that last question, and the question was this: does calling for the genocide of Jews violate your university's code of conduct? And I assumed they would all say yes. It was shocking to me that it has become so morally bankrupt and, frankly, academically bankrupt at these quote-unquote most elite higher ed institutions. So it is now the most viewed testimony in the history of the United States Congress. There have now been 5 college presidents who have been fired. That's Harvard, Penn, Cornell, Rutgers, as well as, I'm forgetting one right now, and Columbia, of course,
yes.
Columbia with the pro-Hamas encampment. And it's because of their failure to lead these institutions, and we held them accountable. These schools felt entitled to nearly $1 billion per school of U.S. taxpayer dollars, and yet they're not representing American values. So this is long overdue, and it set off an earthquake in higher ed where we need to rein these schools in, hold them accountable for their failure to ensure Title VI protections for Jewish students and for their groupthink, radical intellectual rot that is happening, and really this, move to the far left of colleges and universities. So there's a lot of work to do. I'm committed to doing it for the long run, and President Trump, I know, is committed to making sure that we root out the rot in these colleges as well.
Well, I would add, though, you're being a bit modest. Your instincts there were spot on about what was going to happen, and that's why I'm thrilled to have you here. First, let's talk about the campaign in general, and then I want to talk a little bit about female voters, particularly here in the Pennsylvania suburbs, where I think that's where some Trump work needs to be done. What are you seeing at this point for the final push, the final 38 days or so?
This election is a choice. It's a choice between a continuation of historic inflation, where Kamala Harris was the deciding vote that led to Joe Biden's Inflation Expansion Act. It's a choice between the secure border under President Trump versus the wide open, catastrophic border crisis with Kamala Harris as the open borders are. It is a choice between energy independence and supporting those important fracking jobs in Pennsylvania versus Kamala Harris, who wants to ban fracking in Pennsylvania, despite the fact that she's trying to cover up her previous positions desperately. And it's a choice between a strong commander-in-chief who has a record of strengthening our national security with the world at peace versus the chaos and catastrophe under Kamala Harris and Joe Biden. Kamala Harris was the last person in the room when Joe Biden made the decision for the catastrophic withdrawal from Afghanistan. And of course, you see our most precious ally, Israel, under attack. So it is all on the line this election cycle, and voters need to know that Kamala Harris has had 4 years. She created these crises and oftentimes was either the deciding vote or designated by Joe Biden to lead key issues like the border that she has failed. So when she says on day one, we know what day one looks like. It's a failure versus the economic success, the support for American energy, the support for American manufacturing and national security around the world under President Trump. That's the choice this election cycle.
Congresswoman, I had on the regional Teamsters this week, and even they had to admit that President Trump, by another poll here just in Pennsylvania, has broken through. No Republican that I'm thinking of right now, maybe, but nobody could break through to that group like Trump has. Yet we're still experiencing potentially some work to be done with women in the suburbs of Philadelphia, which could be determinative. So I know we don't want to just pitch messages, the broad message you just said, but how is it that Trump talked about being the protector of women this week? I don't think that was as effective. What would you say he can talk about that women particularly can buy into?
Well, first of all, President Trump delivered the greatest economic boost for American women of any modern day president comparison and compare that to Kamala Harris, who created this historic inflation crisis. Women are the primary, we balance our checkbooks for our families. And this inflation crisis, go in the grocery store, that impacts women and men, but it particularly hurts working women. If you look at child care, it was President Trump who doubled the child tax credit. He also made child care more affordable. Kamala Harris, it's become worse. It is less affordable. It is more difficult, more costly because of inflation for hardworking families. President Trump has supported economic opportunity for women. It was the highest number of women ever in the workplace in history under President Trump. And yet you see unemployment challenges. You see challenges for small businesses to start under Kamala Harris. Compare that to President Trump. You had historic numbers of women small business owners and entrepreneurs. Another issue that I think is very important to all voters, but particularly women, is safety and security. This crime crisis is because of the defund the police policies and rhetoric of Kamala Harris and today's Democrat Party. You see a skyrocketing of crime, not just in Philadelphia, but suburbs as well, and rural communities. And it is because Kamala Harris has brought in the defund the police left. She herself has donated to those bail funds to release violent criminals when she donated to that fund in Minnesota, versus Trump, who is law and order and has earned the endorsements of law enforcement agencies because he stands for border security. And then the border crisis is also a women's issue because the border crisis impacts every community. If you look at the leading cause of death for adult Americans aged 18 to 35, it's fentanyl poisoning.
Exactly.
And that's coming across our southern border. And every family knows someone or has been directly touched by fentanyl poisoning because of this border crisis. And Kamala Harris is the border czar. We have the most secure border under President Trump, and I worked with him on the Comprehensive Addiction and Recovery Act to address the addiction crisis, to address fentanyl, and yet this administration has gotten worse under Joe Biden and Harris. So those are three key issues that specifically impact women. And we are going to work hard to make sure that women voters turn out and that they see the record of President Trump versus the failures of Kamala Harris.
Speaking of crime, alleged crime, I'll say, Mayor Adams yesterday, now I'm in the camp, and I'm not sure where you are. It says that Adams, like corruption here in Philadelphia, has been doing these things for years. Some of them go back pretty far. But when he publicly had that forum about illegal immigrants in New York, calling out the Biden administration, really at the heart of it, that really struck a blow. Now we see down the road that he's under multiple indictments.
Sure. So my take on Eric Adams is he should resign. And look, we have had a cult of corruption in New York's Democrat Party. And I think that's actually rampant in the Democrat Party across the country. We had a governor who was forced out, Andrew Cuomo, forced out in disgrace. You had Kathy Hochul, the least popular governor right now. She has been infiltrated by the Chinese Communist Party. That was another high-profile indictment just recently. And now Eric Adams, who is taking foreign dollars, essentially, while he is in position of elected office as New York City mayor, and bribery. That's illegal, and it is part of today's Democrat Party, and it goes all the way to the White House with Hunter Biden and Joe Biden, and Kamala Harris has watched this and allowed this to happen in this administration. So it is a cult of corruption. Now, when it comes to the illegal crisis, you bet New York City has struggled, but this is also the same mayor, Eric Adams, who supported sanctuary city policies, which led to the illegal crisis. So yeah, he gave one speech that was tough on the Biden administration, but look at his record where New York City rolled out the red carpet for illegals, and now politically it's turning against them because New York City taxpayers are seeing the crime skyrocketing, and they know that they're footing the bill to the tune of billions of dollars, and yet New York City kids are sent home from school. So that's why you're seeing Republicans continue to gain inroads at the ballot box in New York State.
I see you as a person, very detail-oriented, very much following through on it. The Secret Service, I'm not sure if you're on any of the committees associated with it. How did we get, it's got to be more than just DEI nonsense, I think, from one of the most prized organizations maybe 10, 15, or 20 years ago, at least we thought it was, to now the arrogance and the incompetency mixed together when it comes to President Trump?
We've seen that in a lot of these agencies, unfortunately. The FBI, which is rotten in terms of the politicization of those agencies, and I think there needs to be a deep dive into the Secret Service. I'm not on the committee looking into the assassination attempts, but I am on the Intelligence Committee, and I have real concerns about the Secret Service's inability institutionally to provide the protection that is necessary for President Trump. And my fear is these agencies are being so politicized as arms of the Biden administration and today's Democrat Party that they have moved away from their mission. Now, when it comes to the agents, President Trump is very grateful for his agents who put their lives on the line every day. But there are cultural and management problems at that agency, particularly after Pennsylvania. A good leader takes accountability and provides answers. You had the former head of the Secret Service, who was the head at that time, refuse to answer any questions or give a public statement after the first assassination attempt in Butler, Pennsylvania. That is unacceptable. It's one of the reasons why she was forced to resign and got such bad feedback, not just from Republicans, but Democrats as well. So a lot of work we need to fix these agencies to make sure that they meet their mission. And that's why this investigation is so important.
Parting question for you. You are on the Intelligence Committee. The president with Zelensky, moments ago, there was a thing where the president said he could do something with Putin, and Zelensky interrupted there. What are your constituents? Where are we on Ukraine right now? And you're on the Intelligence Committee, too.
My major concern is that you have U.S. taxpayer dollars going without a strategic vision from an American president as to how to bring peace to the region. President Trump will bring peace to the region. As he said, he should be able to do that immediately. And yet you have Biden, who is feckless and a weak American president. And let's not forget, this Russian invasion of Ukraine would have never happened were President Trump in office. It was because of Joe Biden's weakness that Putin was able to do that. And this was after the Nord Stream 2 giveaway, the energy pipeline giveaway that Biden gave to Vladimir Putin. So I support President Trump's America First national security policy. That delivered in his first term, and it's going to deliver in the next term.
Congresswoman, thank you so much. Please come back before the election. Really appreciate it.